Aloha and welcome. This is your astrologer Tom, and in today's video, I want to go over some examples of rising above your chart. And before I do that, I just want to let you know that I do have a few spots available to work one-on-one where I take you through rising above your chart. So if you have a problem placement or something in your chart that you want to be able to rise above, or you're wanting to manifest something and you haven't been able to do it, feel free to apply at aloha.riseaboveyourchart.com/apply, and I'll leave the link in the description below as well. So let's dive right in. So this is a post that someone posted anonymously on the Ask Astrologers group, and it says, "I have Mars in Cancer in the first house, opposite Saturn in Capricorn in the seventh, with a sixth house Venus in Scorpio. I want a soul connection, but the opposition seems to destroy everything every time. Do you think I will ever overcome these challenges to have a successful relationship?" Well, there's a few things, and I did reply to it, and there's a few things that jumped out at me when I first saw this. One is the whole point of the chart is to rise above it, right? That's why you picked the chart in the first place when you came in here to Earth. So obviously there's that aspect of it. So yeah, will the person? Well, that's up to what the person does. But can the person? Absolutely, right? Because that's the whole point of the chart. One thing that jumped out at me, and actually the first time I read this, I didn't even notice Venus in Scorpio was mentioned. But one thing that jumped out at me was destroy. And when somebody uses the word destroy, it can be Pluto, can be Uranus, can be Scorpio, um, and generally speaking, right? So I'm like, well, I don't think Mars Saturn opposition, and as you'll see, is really what was going on here. So I said, yeah, in response to, do you think I will ever overcome it? Yeah, that opposition generally requires effort and endurance, yet very doable, right? That's what effort and endurance. It's action that's being sustained. Mars, Saturn. So I have to see the rest of the chart, though. I always qualify something if you've gone through um, my video on astrology cred. You've learned that I always qualify those things based on, yeah, I got to see the whole chart though, because there's a lot that I look at before I respond, right, to someone, before I give them kind of the guidance on it. I want to look at the whole chart. There's a lot movement occurring in the chart. And so I said, since you mentioned destroy, I'm curious about Uranus, Pluto, and Scorpio placements, among other things. And again, I didn't even notice he or she wrote Venus in Scorpio. So let's see. I am curious about Uranus, among other things. Saturn in the seventh can be great for building a relationship. Very, very true. Actually, Saturn in the seventh is a great placement. But a relationship can be work. With Saturn there, relationship, yeah, there may be a conscious effort to work, which is what the effort and endurance is really talking about. So, are you finding things not turning into relationships or relationships that aren't lasting? Both indicate different things. My thinking here was also, hey, if there's, well, let's look at the destroy word and see if we can find that placement in the chart. And then I want to better understand what's this person using as a way to say that things are getting destroyed. Is it the energy of the fifth, where they're meeting the person and they're not able to take the energy from the fifth to the seventh, right? As I talk about in some of my videos, and in my book, Avatar Attraction. Or are they getting to the seventh and they're not able to sustain it? In which case, there may be some Saturn work to do, but it was very, very curious. So this person wrote back, Uranus trine Jupiter and sextile to Sun, square Venus in Scorpio. Pluto is conjunct the moon in Virgo, third house, Mercury and Neptune in Scorpio. So right out of the gate, right? Uranus is making an aspect, Pluto's making an aspect, Pluto's conjunct the moon. I mean, so you got personal planets involved across the board, really, right? You got the moon, Mercury, Venus, and yeah, this person mentioned Mars. So the only thing we were missing was the sun, but I think Uranus trine Jupiter and sextile the sun. So all the personal planets are involved with the placements that I was asking about, right? So personal planets, sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. All the personal planets came out. Like, amazing how that happens, right? So so basically, and I looked at what was being written and I continued and I said, yes, that energy seems to be more in play than the opposition. Which planet is squaring Venus? The Venus in Scorpio makes a lot of sense here. One way of looking at it is learning to not sting yourself with the scorpion's tail. Sometimes it's like wanting to let the love in, yet also wanting emotional distance. So you learn to not be in your own way, so to speak. Similar for the Mercury Neptune. I can get more specific if you'd like. Does this help so far? Personally, I think it's less of the opposition you thought it was and more of these placements. And so I'm doing a couple of different things here. I'm indicating the energy that I think is in play. Because remember that from an astrology credit perspective, the person, this is why I don't do the, if you watch my video on why I don't play the guess the sign game, it's because it's the energy that's active. It's the energy that's in play. That's what we're looking at. That's where the problem is. That's what we need to rise above. So in this particular case, it's more likely the placements that this person brought up. Now, what is it? Is it the Pluto Neptune? Is it, is it the Venus Mars? Like, I would have to ask more questions and ideally, see the chart a little bit, and I would be able to ask more specific questions. The Mercury Neptune is interesting, right? Because the Scorpionic tendency comes out here. Neptune can be their ideal. So when I help a lot of people find their ideal partner, Neptune can come into play there. And Mercury, how they communicate to their partner. And so, I mean, this is interesting. Like if this person has Neptune, Mercury, Venus in Scorpio, yeah, there's probably something within that that's going on. And then I would be able to talk to this person about that energy in play and figure out exactly where the energy needs to be risen above, right? And then guide that person to doing it. So this person then responded, Uranus is square Venus, and what you're saying is making complete sense. I appreciate you taking the time to answer. Didn't need any more detail. That was enough. Okay. So usually I like to give one thing, check in. Is it landing? Is it making sense? Because as you know from Astrology Cred, there's this range. We need to also assess where within the range the person is. And so then I wrote, awesome. And the Uranus fits right in. Glad I could help. Hearing a problem and finding it in the chart and then helping with it is what I'm good at. Feel free to ping me if you need anything else in the future. So that is my gift. I can hear the chart in the language and how the person's talking, and then go to the chart and find it. Right. Some astrologers will look at the chart and then tell the person, and and the person will respond, and they'll kind of base it on that. I generally do it the other way. I have them talk to me, and then I go, oh, this is what I'm hearing in the language as to what energy is active, and then I pull up their chart and I go, okay, right here. And so I knew that somewhere, and it wasn't. I want to be clear. I knew that somewhere in what I was asking this person to clarify was going to come out with a placement that made sense. I I didn't. It's not that everybody that says the word destroy. It's not everybody. It's the way that the energy in this person's original message was being conveyed and what they were saying and how they talked about the destruction of it, right? Because that can be Mars Pluto running over something, that can be Scorpio getting in the way, right? And that can be a lot of different things. And so I'm familiar with that energy because I help so many people rise above their charts, especially for business goals and relationship goals. Those are the big two. And within the relationship space, it's either finding a partner, getting over an ex, rekindling a marriage, or an existing relationship, right? So I love I love doing this type of thing. So when I hear the language, I've already seen enough charts where I'm like, okay, there's a placement that's got to be like this that's going on, and then I know what to do to rise above it. I gave her or him a taste of what it is to rise above the Scorpio. But then again, with all the mind, body, spirit things that I do, the energy work, the guided visualization, there's so much more that you can get out of a problem placement, right? So, for example, this person says, I want to know if you can change the fate of your astrology chart. If your astrology chart says you will have bad relationships, if you have learned the lessons, and can you change your behavior? And then the person edited it to say, thanks for so many responses. I had an inherent problem with this particular statement because, as I wrote, the chart won't say you'll have bad relationships. People may label it that way, but in reality, it describes potential and energy. Energy has a higher expression. Everything I do is to help people tap into the power of the chart rather than falling victim to it. And that's the point. Now, um, there is like people may label a certain placement as bad, but it's just a label. And as an astrologer, I have to be careful not to project onto the client. I have to be careful not to see my own stuff when a client comes to me, but am I looking at the chart and where the client is at in the utmost of light and being able to help them from where they're at to where it is that they want to be. So the point here is this is a much more empowering way to look at it. So if you've learned the lessons and you change your behavior, well, yeah, that's rising above your chart. I mean, that's the whole point of it. But I think what this person was actually experiencing was more of this conflict, like saying the chart's like, oh, doom and gloom, you're gonna have bad relationships. And then they're like, but wait a minute, if I learn my lessons and I change my behavior, can't I step out of it? Well, yeah. And then but then people might go, but then what does the chart mean? And see, that's where astrology cred comes in. Right. I'll leave a link to the astrology cred video as well below. And so, the idea that yeah, this stuff's along a range and this stuff has a higher and lower expression. Right. So, and then sometimes the a problem placement can come out in negative emotions or limiting beliefs. And so this person just said, how do I control a short temper? And I said, you have to release the anger at the unconscious level, something I help people with. So when somebody comes to me, they're like, hey, there's this problem placement in the chart and it may result in a temper. Okay, well, I have techniques, to actually release the anger at the unconscious level. And I mean, and so and we can talk all about that in the context of rising above the chart for you. So again, I have a few spaces available in the program, one-on-one work. This is one-on-one work, but there is an application because I want you to be dedicated to the process. Rising above your chart is a huge step forward for you. And if you're wanting to take that next step on your path, this is a great way to do it. Whatever the problem is that you want, and even if it's just that you're not fulfilled in your life, sometimes I get very esoteric, very abstract problems from people, and I can look at the chart and we can talk about the energy that's in play, and I can help you rise above it. Right. So, whatever it is, if you feel like you're missing something out of life, then apply for Rise Above Your Chart and go to aloha.riseaboveyourchart.com/apply. And if you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, aloha, hui ho. I'll talk with you again soon. Take care.